You know, we're living through this incredible revolution in how we see the world. That daily ritual of getting the news, something that felt so permanent for generations, is being completely torn up and rewritten right before our eyes. And it's not some quiet change, it's an all-out war for your attention.
Seriously, just think about it for a second. How did you first find out what was happening in the world today? Whatever popped into your head, that's your little piece of this massive global shift. A shift that's changing politics, our society, and even how we decide what's true.
So, to really get what's happening, we've got to start with the first big story. The old guard is fading. You know, the traditional news sources that used to run the show, the front-page newspaper, the evening news broadcast, they're losing their grip.
And a huge reason for that comes down to one word: trust. Look at this number, just 40%. That's the global average of people who actually trust the news. And what's really telling is that this isn't a new dip. This number has been stuck this low for 3 years. It's not a blip, it's the new normal. And it changes everything.
Now, if you dig into that number, you find this massive split between generations. For people 55 and up, yeah, TV news is still king. But for young adults, wow, it is not even close. Social media is their front page by more than double. This isn't just a different habit, it's like two completely different information universes existing at the same time.
And that generational split, it creates this big open space, right? And it's being filled by a totally new force. It's not just that people are on social media, it's who they're listening to when they're there. We're seeing this whole new generation of voices, and they're definitely not coming from the usual newsrooms.
I mean, just take this as an example. In 1 week, more than a fifth of all Americans heard news or commentary from a single podcaster, Joe Rogan. That is a level of reach that major news companies would kill for, all coming from one person. It just shows you the incredible power that individual creators have now.
And make no mistake, this is not just some sideshow. Political figures are now actively building relationships with this whole alternative media world. Why? Because they get it. This is where a huge part of the audience, especially younger men, actually lives. It's like a parallel universe from media, and it is incredibly powerful.
And this rise of the news creator, it's absolutely a global thing. It is happening everywhere.
Let's hop over to France, for instance. There's a young creator named Hugo Travers. He goes by Hugo Decrypt online. He's literally built a media business just explaining the news on YouTube and TikTok, and his reach with young audiences is now blowing past many of the country's biggest, most established news organizations.
So that brings us to the platforms themselves, because the apps in our pockets, they're not just neutral spaces anymore. They are the new front lines. They are the battlegrounds where the information wars are being fought and won.
And there is no better example of this than the wild transformation of Twitter into X. What was once a platform that was home to more progressive voices has gone through this incredibly fast ideological shift under Elon Musk, who's pushing a very different idea of free speech.
And you can see the results of that shift right here in the data. The whole user base has dramatically changed. The number of users who identify as right-leaning has tripled since Musk took over, making X this really vital hub for conservative audiences and creators.
But while X is grabbing all the headlines, the most important growth story might be happening somewhere else. The fastest growing news network on the planet? It's probably TikTok.
Just get a load of this number. In Thailand, almost half the population now gets news from TikTok. That is absolutely staggering. And we're seeing similar stories of explosive growth all across Asia and Africa. This platform is completely redrawing the global map for information.
So with all these new platforms, new creators, and everyone kind of in their own information bubble, we have a huge challenge. How do we get through the misinformation maze? And when you ask people who they think the biggest problem is, well, the answer is pretty fascinating.
It turns out people are now equally concerned about getting bad info from national politicians and from the very same online influencers they're flocking to for news. It's a total paradox, right? We're drawn to these new voices, but we're also deeply, deeply skeptical of them.
Which, of course, raises a really critical question. In this confusing new world, when you're scrolling and you see something that just feels off, or maybe even fake, what do you do? Where do you go to find out if it's true?
And the answer here is a crucial lifeline for traditional media. Despite all the declining trust, the #1 place people go to check facts is a news outlet they trust. So we might not be using them as often to start our day, but when we're in doubt, those established brands are still our anchor for truth. And social media, it's the absolute last place we'd go.
Okay, so just when you think you have your head wrapped around all of that, the next giant earthquake is already here. Artificial intelligence, and it's about to shake everything up all over again.
So what are we even talking about? Well, generative AI is basically technology that can create brand new content all by itself. It can write a news summary, generate an audio report, even create a video, all just based on the data that it's been fed.
This presents us with a fundamental choice. Are we more comfortable with news that's produced mainly by AI, with a human just checking it over at the end? Or do we want news made by human journalists, who are just using AI as a kind of helpful assistant? This is the core debate that is going to define this next chapter for news.
But as all this technology races ahead, it's worth taking a step back and remembering what audiences have always wanted. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if it's delivered by a TV anchor, a TikTok creator, or an AI. People want news that is impartial, that's accurate, that's transparent, and that does the hard work of holding powerful people accountable.
And that leaves us with the ultimate question. In this new world of AI and influencers, of endless content and fractured trust, how do you decide who to believe? Because the answer to that question, well, that's what will define the future of news.